Good evening. My name is Adam Saul. I'm a professor here at Victoria College and the launch director of Victoria University's Center for Creativity. The center is a new initiative, just not quite 2 years old now, whose mandate is to explore and advance creativity across disciplines. We host programs and events, support student projects, and invite artists, thinkers, and developers from different fields to share work, compare ideas, and collaborate. One of the big developments this year is the new partnership with the Toronto International Festival of Authors, which brings together two institutions who have a deep commitment to the written word, to storytelling, and to thoughtful discussion on crucial topics. In a moment, I'm going to introduce Marc Spooner and Nahlah Ayed, who are going to really manage the rest of the evening. But before I do that, as the host of the space and the person representing its current caretakers, I'd like to acknowledge the land on which the University of Toronto operates, which for thousands of years has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work here, especially now with the season turning. 2026 is already gearing up to be an incredibly exciting year for TIFA as we continue to bring authors to audiences year-round. This is only possible through the support from the board, donors, and sponsors. These include TIFA's seasoned supporter, the Weston Foundations, Beth Nowers and Jack Curtin, presenting donors of TIFA Presents this series, as well as TIFA's Global Authors Club. TIFA would also like me to acknowledge their public funders, the Government of Canada, the Canada Council for the Arts, the Government of Ontario, the Ontario Arts Council, Ontario Cultural Attractions Fund, the Work in Culture Catalyst and Transformation Fund, the Toronto Arts Council, and to all TIFA's generous donors and supporters who believe that great literature is worth investing in. All right, I have two more introductions and then I will get out of the way. First is Dr. Marc Spooner. Marc is a full professor in the Faculty of Education at the University of Regina and researches academic freedom and the effects of neoliberalism and corporatization on higher education. He's the co-editor of the award-winning book Dissident Knowledge in Higher Education from University of Regina Press, and is also one of the editors of Knowledge Under Siege, which you're going to hear about tonight. He's going to come out in a minute and say a few things about the book to start us off. And then he's going to turn things over to our moderator, Nahlah Ayed, who you probably already know is an award-winning journalist. She has worked for the CBC for more than 20 years and is currently the host of IDEAS on CBC One. I know that was a lot. Thanks for your patience. Welcome again. You're in for a very stimulating conversation. Okay.
Well, thanks a lot, Adam. Thanks to the Toronto International Festival of Authors, to the CBC and Nahlah Ayed, to the U of R Press, all the contributors to the book, and the panelists tonight. Thank you. Knowledge is indeed under siege. In the last 3 months, PEN America released a report entitled Expanding the Web of Control, America's Censored Campuses 2025. In that report, they had key findings that noted government censorship of free speech and academic freedom has reached unprecedented heights on U.S. campuses as lawmakers extend a web of political and ideological control over the sector. More than half of U.S. college and university students now study in a state with at least one law or policy restricting what can be taught or how campuses can operate. The Trump administration has weaponized multiple levers of state power to coerce colleges and universities into compliance with its ideological diktats. Another report, Scholars at Risk, Free to Think 2025, notes from January 2025, the federal government initiated an unprecedented range of actions aimed at controlling university admissions, hiring, research, teaching, departmental structures, policies on speech, disciplinary policies, internal sanctions, and finances. These actions included extra-legal executive orders targeting individual universities by revoking their funding, a series of attempts to arrest, detain, and attempt to deport without due legal process US-based non-citizen scholars and students, and executive, legislative, and other actions aimed at eliminating research, programming, and academic supports related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, gender, environment, and many other areas. Such actions were part of a broader campaign by the US government paralleling similar actions in authoritarian countries to weaken the democratic pillars of civil society. And yet a third report just came out on the 17th of March, Academic Freedom Index. It's a report that measures academic freedom. Academic freedom has declined more quickly in the US than in any other country in the past year, and it is a significant contributor to a worrying global trend of continuing decline in academic freedom. And this is not just Trump. Many of the bans on equity, diversity, and inclusion, on gender studies, on critical race theory, post-colonial studies, cultural studies, area studies, were well underway at the state level prior to Trump's election. So although he is certainly a lightning rod, the foundation for these attacks are present and well supported at the state level. Here are some recent headlines to cheer you up. In statistics reach crisis point, nations struggle with critical lack of data, Nature warns. The US national system is approaching a crisis point because of political interference and funding cuts that are threatening long-established data sets. The organization Science observes, US government has lost more than 10,000 STEM PhDs since Trump took office. The New York Times reports professors are changing what they teach and research everywhere. They note, professors are changing what they teach, even far away from Trump's gaze. Harvard is White House's biggest target, but professors all over the country have been censoring themselves and avoiding provocative topics and rewriting grants. That's just a snapshot. And let me say, Canada is not immune. The politicized assault on higher education is spreading, and Canada is not immune. During the federal election campaign, the Conservatives pledged to defund university research it deemed as woke and thereby ideologically unacceptable. The Alberta provincial government's Bill 18, or the Provincial Priorities Act, attempts to position the Alberta government as a gatekeeper to federal research funding. The University of Alberta dismantled its Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office, aligning more with United Conservative Party official policy opposing such efforts, and more recently, going a step further, all of Alberta post-secondary education will no longer be considering equity, diversity, and inclusion factors in their hiring procedures, and more importantly, in their mission statements. The U of A changes are in line with last year's McNinch report, which called for institutional neutrality and the dismantling of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Across Canada, the post-secondary sector faces chronic underfunding and is at such a breaking point that Higher Education Strategy Associates has started a retrenchment watch. Retrenchment Watch monitors institutional cutbacks in post-secondary education with a focus on Canada and the Anglosphere. As public funding declines, the sector faces a patchwork of institution-driven cuts with significant implications. Ken Steele on his dashboard notes no less than 1,135 programs have been suspended across Canada. Another main factor besides outright attacks on universities, Trump style, is the more prevalent, less controversial, but arguably no less effective repurposing or restructuring of universities and their missions through economic levers. Economic restructuring by explicitly linking performance-based funding to the labor market and industry. Everyone agrees Canada's post-secondary education is facing a chronic underfunding. Program cuts, layoffs, campus closures are making headlines across the country. The proximate cause, last year's federal government cap on international student visas, but the ultimate one, and one that we've been sounding the alarm bells about for decades, is the deliberate and chronic underfunding of public colleges and universities. When students are forced to graduate with a mortgage on their house of knowledge, what we have is an intergenerational theft of opportunity. At a time when democratic norms are fraying, these developments should ring alarm bells for anyone who believes in a robust and pluralistic democracy. I think Astrid Taylor said it best in her comments about our book. Around the world, universities are key battlegrounds in the fight against fascism. But as the contributors to this volume understand, we have to do more than aspire for a restoration of the previous broken academic status quo. This expansive and insightful collection, thanks Astra, helps clarify the stakes of the current crisis and its antecedents, while also exploring possible solutions and more life and learning affirming futures. In an op-ed, Joel Westheimer, another contributor to the collection, and I wrote, we noted, these attacks are part of a larger authoritarian playbook, undermine public trust in institutions that question power, and reward those that remain loyal. The goal is not to control universities, but to reshape the civic imagination, to erode the idea that higher education should nurture questioning, complexity, and dissent. Universities are more than job training institutions. In healthy democracies, they are engines of democratic life, and they are essential not only in their own right, but also for sustaining the other democratic pillars we so often name as central to democracy: the press, the judiciary, and the legislature. In the introduction to our book, James and I write, one argument we wish to make explicit here is that universities operating in liberal democracies have a special role to play, one that sets them apart from universities in totalitarian regimes and authoritarian and illiberal states. In addition to seeking truth, making discoveries, and passing on knowledge and wisdom, the university in a democracy has as its unique purpose that of asking difficult questions of governments, difficult questions of other power structures, and of society itself. Its role includes ensuring that public policy is informed by the best available evidence, as well as helping to foster critical and creative citizens whose formation prepares them for a lifetime of meaningful employment, community engagement, and democratic participation. When a society and a university are operating in an optimal fashion, these processes are happening both inside and outside a campus. After all, the university is in service of our current society, but also, and more importantly, the aspirational one on the horizon. What we are seeing in the USA, that universities are being reoriented and reshaped to serve an authoritarian state rather than a democratic one, is an ongoing source of tension and struggle, from the Red Scares of the early 1900s to the 1950s McCarthy era to our current present. As a final thought, I wish to end by strongly making the case that universities in a democracy are more lighthouse than ivory tower. I turn the floor to Nahlah and the panel as I greatly look forward to your discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marc. A very sobering words, and thank you for making this happen. Without Marc, this whole event wouldn't be on, so thank you very much, Marc.